Welcome to Psalm 60. God helps those in affliction, and that includes all of us at one time or another. Maybe currently you're going through some sort of affliction that is painful. Affliction is something that is not a good experience as far as what you would want to have to go through. But unfortunately, living in this life, we are tested, and these tests many times take the form of an affliction. Elon Musk, famous, I don't know what you would call him, a CEO of a company that makes a lot of, car automobiles and SpaceX, they asked him if he thought there was a God. And I can't remember exactly where this was, but he said something, well, if there is, and we're in a giant Petri dish, that is probably very close to being the truth, that we are in this Petri dish that God looks at, sees what we are going through and how we act and so forth, and makes his decision. If we believe in his son, Jesus Christ, that is a good decision. And in this psalm, we'll, I believe, see a little glimpse of the future of Jesus Christ. It begins to the telos, as most of the psalms begin, to the aleothesomenes, the changings. Boy, the Greek has some long words. The changings. I looked it up, and it's a change of state or a change of clothes. And this would probably some type of a changing in maybe music being played. It was for an inscription on a monument attributed to David for teaching when he set on fire Mesopotamia of Syria. Now, Mesopotamia is not normally attributed to Syria. It's attributed to Mesopotamia, which is where Babylon and Nineveh are located, which is today Iraq. Syria generally is a country north where Damascus is located, but it could be the middle of the rivers of Syria, whichever the Euphrates does come up through the northern part of Syria. I think it's on the border. So, someplace David set on fire these places, and Syria Zoval, and Joab returned and struck Edom, which is to the southeast of the Dead Sea. Joab was David's general, and he fought many battles, and here it mentions that, why it mentions these things, I'm not exactly sure, but when Joab returned and struck Edom in the ravine of the Salts, which it was fairly close to the Dead Sea, so ravine of the Salts would be going along with Edom. 12,000 people. Verse 1, O God, you thrusted us away. Now, this is to me, is kind of strange because of why would he say this, that we were thrusted away. And he demolished us. Israel is becoming strong under David, and I don't see him being thrusted away at that time. So I'm questioning whether or not this time was of David, even though, as we mentioned before with these titles, nobody knows for sure if they were the original or not. But Israel was thrusted away later and demolished. You were provoked to anger, yet you pitied us. You shook the earth and disturbed it. Now, shaking the earth and having earthquakes are fairly common in Israel, in that area of the Middle East. Could be referring to that, or it could be referring to a future time when he shakes the earth and he disturbs it, which is future to us today. Heal its breaks, for it was shaken. So exactly what he's referring to here, if it's a future where the earth is shaken, then this would be a portent of a future event. You showed to your people hard things. You watered us down with the wine of vexation. So I just don't see this as happening at the time of David, because he was going through some difficulties and fights with people around him. So maybe it was. It's hard to say, but if we put it down to another people, we could put it down to ourselves. You watered us down, because it talked at the beginning about the going through the different problems, and you watered us down with wine of vexation. Now, here is blaming God for doing these things, and I suppose God is in charge of allowing things to happen to us that would be vexing. We would be vexed, we would be upset, and we would have to go through that hard period of time. But he says, you gave to the ones fearing you a signal to flee from the face of the bow, or the front of the bow. You gave to the ones fearing you a signal to flee. Now, giving us a signal for us to flee from a war is basically what he's talking about. Now, if he was referring to something that happened then, I'm not sure what it would be, but God is definitely giving people signals today of looking at the future and war, possibly. The Chinese, mainland China is flying bombers in the airspace of Taiwan, and that's a war is possible, and Iran is putting its troops against Azerbaijan in a war game and so forth. War drums are being beaten, and so the signal for us to flee. Well, where do you flee? I don't know where you would flee. If you were in the middle of those areas where there's going to be a terrible battle, you would want to flee. The people in the Second World War covered a large area from Germany and France, all the way from France on the Mediterranean, Dunkirk, all the way to Moscow, where people were fighting. And the war, what did they do? They couldn't. If it's that big, where are you going to go? The next war, it may be something that will be nuclear. How do you get away from a nuclear war? Well, I don't think you do. What happens is we'll find out. Hopefully it won't happen, but then so it continues. So your beloved should be rescued. Now, the beloved, there's a plural. The beloved ones should be rescued. Jesus was the beloved Son. It says that in Luke 9:35, and a voice came from out of the cloud saying, "This is my Son, the beloved, of him hear." And then later in the books of the New Testament, we see Paul calling out certain people by name and saying the beloved so-and-so, the so-and-so was beloved. And I would like to think that we are the beloved, and if we are, then we would be rescued from whatever is going to happen with these war drums, and possibly being taken away is a possibility. Deliver with your right hand and heed me. That's more or less by the military, the right hand of hitting somebody, and heed me. Well, God spoke in his holy place. Now, that could have been the temple, not the temple at the time of David, it would have been the tabernacle. If it was later, it would have been the temple, or Jerusalem, these holy places, and future holy place in the book of Ezekiel, the last 10 chapters. I will exalt, and I will divide Shechem in the valley of the tents. Now, I'm not sure if that's Beersheba or not. I will measure out. Gilead is mine, which is on the eastern side of the Jordan, and Manasseh is mine, and Ephraim is the fortification of my head. Now he's talking about these different geographical locations which Joab was actually in and fighting. Judah is my king, and Jesus is the king, and he is from the tribe of Judah. Moab, which was on the eastern side north of Edom, eastern side of the Dead Sea north of Edom, is a kettle of my hope. Now, other places he had bad things to say about Edom and Moab, but here in this psalm is something different. It's a strange psalm as far as I'm concerned. It's a lot of questions. Over Edom, I will stretch out my sandal. Now, I'm not sure what that means. If that means he's going to walk over it and control it, possibly. The Philistines submitted to me, and that's the Palestinians. The Philistines were defeated by David, and they did submit to King David, but they haven't submitted today. Who shall take me away into the citadel? And that would have been Jerusalem. Or who shall guide me unto Edom? Will not you, O God, the one thrusting us away? See, this is just strange. One thrusting us away. God wasn't thrusting. He was building the kingdom of David at the high point with Solomon. And will you not go forth, O God, with our forces? Give to us help from out of affliction. So there's the affliction, thlipsios. For deliverance of man is vain. Well, if you can have different types of affliction, deliverance of man is vain. Affliction could be some type of a physical ailment. You're afflicted with that. Now, you would have man going to a doctor, a surgeon, dealing with your problem, but the healing comes from God in our bodies. And man can do only so much when you're in affliction. Wars can start, and if you're in the middle of it, what are you going to do? Stop and go out and put your hand up and say, stop, stop. Well, no, there's nothing you can do about it. Shows how little we're in control and how much God is in control. But he does allow us to go through these times. A lot of Christians in the First World War, Second World War had to go through terrible times. And the United States Civil War. In God, we do powerfully, and he shall treat with contempt the ones afflicting us. So here he's showing the affliction is from other people, basically not something that's internal, but it's people that are afflicting us. Many Christians are afflicted in the world, and there are many Christians that are not, that live in a country and there's at peace, and Christians are not bothered by anyone. And if you are being afflicted, then know that God, he shall treat with contempt the ones afflicting us. God will treat them with contempt, although you may have to be going through the affliction. Psalm 61, fear God and abide into the eon. And this is what we all want to do. We'll find out more about that. Psalm 61. Hope you'll join us. Till then, God bless.